Well, there is growing controversy today over several recess appointments by the president. The president naming Richard Cordray as director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The president also naming 3 people to the National Labor Relations Board, bypassing the normal Senate confirmation process there. Some Republicans are not happy with these recess appointments, even questioning their legality at this point. The president himself criticized similar recess appointments by then-President George W. Bush back in 2005. In fact, President Obama had this to say about the recess appointment of John Bolton as U.S. ambassador to the UN, saying, quote, "Not in the history of the United Nations representatives have we ever had a recess appointment, somebody who couldn't get through a nomination in the Senate. And I think that means that we will have less credibility." Again, that from President Obama back in 2005. Senator Bob Corker, Republican of Tennessee, is critical of these recess appointments, and he joins us now. Senator, nice to have you back on the program.
Jenna, always good to be with you.
Senator, I was looking back at recess appointments in general, and I see that the president has made 28 recess appointments so far in his term. But if you look at President George W. Bush, at the same time in his term, he made 34 recess appointments. If you look back to President Reagan, he made 240 recess appointments over his 2 terms in office. So what makes this any different?
Well, I think what is most abusive about what's happened over the last week is what's happened with these NLRB appointees. They didn't even come to the Senate until just maybe a couple of weeks ago, so there's been no hearings whatsoever on these. I think that is incredibly abusive when, again, there's not even been a chance for the Senate to take them up. You have no idea whether confirmation would have gone through or not. He just decided to send a couple of folks up and have them appointed. So I'm actually shocked at what he did with the NLRB. I'm not surprised, candidly, that he appointed Mr. Cordray head of the Consumer Protection Agency. I knew that obviously the Senate was not going to confirm him until we had some checks and balances, the kind of things that most people in Tennessee would like to see happen. The Securities and Exchange Commission, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the Federal Reserve, all have boards and commissions, and what Republicans and a lot of people have asked is just that we have an appropriate check and balance with this new Consumer Protection Agency. This guy's going to have unfettered power. This one person, not an agency, not a group of people, is going to have the ability to make unprecedented rules on the financial industry with no check and balance. So it is something, both cases, we have what I would call abusive policies being put in place, and I don't think it's the kind of thing that Americans believe is an appropriate check and balance.
So that said, those are your concerns. What can you actually do about these appointments now that they've been made?
There's absolutely nothing that can be done other than really pursuing the constitutionality of being able to do what's been done. This is really not a recess that's taking place in the Senate. And, you know, I think Senator Byrd from West Virginia, who was a Democrat, well-known, who really looked at the processes of the Senate and wanted to keep the integrity there, he'd probably be rolling over in his grave at what has just happened. So I think that will be challenged. But from the standpoint of what we can do immediately, the president has acted in a way that just really sticks a stick in the eye of the Senate and the Congress in general, something that, as you mentioned, he thought was very inappropriate just a few years ago. And unfortunately, at a time when our country really needs to be coming together to solve the big problems that our country has, probably has poisoned the well even more. It's obviously something that he's done to rally an extremist base that he wants to come to his aid in his presidential campaign. But from the standpoint of overall policies for our country, something that probably takes us a step even further back from where we were when we left and came home for Christmas recess.
You touch on so many different important dynamics, that between the Congress and the White House, as well as the dynamic between the public and the government. You know that the public, based on the polls, is so disillusioned with the way things are working in D.C. And just picking off that point, just playing devil's advocate for a moment, why not just try it? Why not just try this director of the Financial Bureau and just kind of see how it goes? Why not just let it through and just start the year anew? Why do you think this is such a game changer going into 2012?
Well, I don't think the consumer protection head, I think we thought at some point this was something the president was going to try to do. Again, I've talked with the White House on multiple occasions about, again, just trying to keep a check and balance. I think most people understand that Congress has no ability to deal with the appropriations that go to this particular agency. Again, there's no real way of vetoing rules.
Judge Napolitano on our show yesterday said that
you cannot do that.
You can't at all?
Yeah, I think most people don't understand or haven't been made aware that where the funding for this agency comes is from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve prints money and invests it, and it creates income out of thin air. That's called seigniorage from the Federal Reserve. Can you cut the salary,
though, for this man as the director? Can you cut it?
You can't touch it.
You can't touch that either.
It's untouchable. The money comes directly from the Federal Reserve, which prints money, invests it, it creates income. That's called seigniorage. That seigniorage goes to pay for this consumer protection agency. So Congress has zero role in this. There's also some new definitions called abusive.
Senator Corker, we're going to have...
I mean, this...
Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there, but I appreciate your insight on it. And it's something interesting. As we mentioned, both Republican and Democratic administrations have done this before, but we'll see how this plays out in the new year, which is interesting to hear what you have to say about the funding, something I'm sure not many of us knew about that. Senator Corker, thank you again for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.